Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sledgehammers in the Office podcast, where we celebrate the heavy hitters on the job site and in the office. We're continuing in our Next Generation in the Trade series, and the last couple, and we've got another one scheduled, it's going to be business owners, but today this is purely just about people in the trades, so we brought my brother in, Malachi Klaus.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Malachi works at one of the local utilities here in Arizona, but he started out on the residential side for electrical work. So we'll have you get into a little bit more of the details with how you went from residential to where you are now.
Yeah, so I started in 2017, a little mom and pop residential shop. Just a few employees there, just doing service calls, working on installing lights and cans and fans and troubleshooting outlets not working, which is mostly just GFIs need to be clicked. And about 2 years in, the owner was going through some personal things, and I felt like it was best for me to get out of the situation with the company before something happened with my employment. And so I was in the apprenticeship at the time, and they had always told us, if you want to change jobs or you're going to quit, do not do it without talking to the apprenticeship first. You will be dropped from the apprenticeship. So I went to the lady running it and asked her, I think I need to get out of this company for these reasons, kind of told her some info. What do I do? And she goes, well, you're here. So talk to me. So I talked to her, and as we were talking, another guy walked in, and she goes, you should talk to him. He's a project manager for an industrial company. And so I talked to him. He said they were hiring, said they needed more apprentices on these bigger jobs. And so he offered me a job basically right there. I thought about it for a few weeks, and then I called him, said I'll take it, put in my 2 weeks after that. So that was in my second year of my apprenticeship. I switched over to that company. I did around 3 years with that company, so I finished out my apprenticeship and worked with them. So I graduated in April or May, and then I got a job at the utility in September of the same year that I graduated. So I spent about 2 years doing residential, some commercial service, about 2.5 to 3 doing industrial, mostly what they called, I'm trying to think of the name. We basically did revamps on water plants, and then I jumped right into the utility company as a journeyman after that. A few months as a journeyman in industrial, and then right into the utility world.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So if we were to start kind of at the beginning with where you started, how much knowledge did you come in with, and how quickly did you start to pick things up along the way?
I knew nothing. I didn't know the difference between a 1/4-inch drive, a 3/8 drive, and a 1/2-inch drive ratchet. I thought those were socket sizes, 1/4-inch, 3/8, 1/2-inch. I didn't know I didn't know that side cutters were the same as what we call dikes or, alternative lifestyle cutters. I thought these pliers we use are called Kleins. They're called Lineman's, Kleins. I didn't know any of these tool names, and I was just told, go buy this toolkit from Home Depot. And I went and bought the cheapest $99 toolkit that's green. I think the brand's Greenlee, and it's crappy tools, but it had one of each hand tool, 2 screwdrivers, and then they were show up with tools and a white t-shirt on, and I knew nothing. And it was just, okay, starting, I didn't know anything about electricity. I knew you're don't touch it, it shocks you. I knew when you put a paper clip in an outlet, sparks will come out, because we did that as kids. That was about it. And so I knew nothing. And it still took me as a journeyman learning tools, because different trades have trade specific tools that I never saw in the residential side working in utility stuff. And so years of learning tools, but just picking up tools slowly. Okay, I know what this is. I know he'll need this tool next, and just getting familiar with that kind of stuff. So it definitely took a while getting familiar with just the tools and what they're called and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So, and then even just for your experience, we've talked about there's residential, there's industrial, and there's utility. So if we could even break out inside of that, we'll get into a little bit of the nerd stuff, but just trying to explain what does a residential electrician do, what does an industrial electrician do, and then what does a utility electrician do. And obviously there's a range inside of all those, but if you kind of want to split those out so that people can understand, here's what each area does.
Yeah, so in residential, I did service, so I can't speak to everything, but I know there's guys that just rope houses, and they can do it extremely fast. And when I mean on rope houses, they run the Romex open frame houses, and they call it roping. And they're ground up construction, roping houses or remodels, and they'll do when all the drywall's down, big remodels. We did service. So if a customer was going to do an addition on the house, that would be, like that's a remodel, but we would be available for that kind of stuff. But the manpower wasn't there at the company I was at. So we did mostly service, like I want more lights in here. I want a hot tub circuit. And so we would go out.
Usually it's a 1 day in, 1 day out.
Yeah, typically 1 day in, 1 day out. I know I worked on a job with you, that was longer. That was probably like one of the bigger jobs they had. And if they had commercial jobs, it would be like maybe a few days. Like we're working at a hotel adding these circuits here and there. So a few days. But yeah, mostly 1 day in, 1 day out. Multiple service calls a day, 4 or 5 houses in a day. When you're roping, it's like you have a block. Or like multiple houses, or I don't even know how
that's the new build track that you're running through. That might be the custom home not usually custom homes. Those guys are usually more specialty. But
yeah. And so I wasn't in that world. I mean, I saw a little bit of it. I did rope a house for someone, so I mean, like I got a little bit of experience with that. In the industrial side, we did rehabs, and so we were running a lot of conduit, pulling lots of wire, setting lots of panels. There's a lot more controls with the company I worked at, so like local control panels, automation stuff. They want to set up pumps. They want things to work in a certain order. So they wanted all that set up just automatically. And we did a lot of stuff being for the city, which was like 5 kV, so 5,000 volts. So we did a lot of underground duct bank, which is like concrete encased conduit. We did that all ourselves.
And real quickly, conduit is the metal tubing that you'll see wires run through on the outside of the houses, or in commercial applications, conduit is essentially standard.
Yeah, or PVC. So like either metal or PVC conduit underground. So we ran all PVC underground. We'd run anywhere from like 3 to 6 inch and probably over a mile of that sometimes, just all over a plant, setting multiple manholes, like the big, you see the big steel, lid in the street. That's in there. Just a big, basically room, like a 10 by 10 or 8 by 8, sometimes a 6 by 6, and there's just lots of holes in the wall where conduits come in and wires fish in and out. So we did lots of conduit, lots of wire pulls and terminations and stuff like that, and splices. And so a lot of my experience there was just like you'd be doing weeks at a time doing duct bank, which is like the conduit underground. You got to build rebar cages around it for the concrete to be supported, and then you'd have like weeks at a time of pulling conductor, and then weeks at a time of like terminating that conductor, and then setting the panels and like bringing it in and all that stuff. And
you guys were the ones setting the rebar, or were you having to just coordinate?
No, we bent the rebar too. Like we would get like crazy. A shipment of rebar, and it's like just the 20-foot sticks in bundles, and we had like rebar benders and cutters, and the city had a standard of like each rib needs to be this far apart. Yeah. And you'd bend the tops, and you'd have to turn it, like you have to like, and then you'd have to like, you can make custom, like you can build the straight
You're doing
runs.
the job of a concrete guy, essentially, is what I'm getting at. Though.
Yeah. And we'd order our own concrete, and then we'd pour the concrete too. Yeah. So we did all that stuff. So that was pretty cool seeing that whole side of like basically ground up, even though it was like already a facility there. Like we built an addition onto the building, and it was like there was nothing there, and then there was a huge hole in the ground, and then we did all the conduit, concrete, everything. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Cool.
So, and then utility stuff. I work in substation maintenance. So I work on electrical systems from 69,000 volts up to 500,000 volts. And I do maintenance. So I work on breakers and transformers mostly, but we have an array of different equipment we work on. And so my job is basically going in. We have planned maintenance, and we have, emergency responsive maintenance we got to go do. But for the most part, we do planned maintenance. We go in, take a piece of equipment out of service, make it safe to work on, and we perform all of our checks on that. And we do some construction work. We call it capital work in my department. So I'm doing some capital jobs right now where it's like ground up construction, building like a new addition to a bay or something like that. New pieces of equipment, like a new breaker, new capacitor bank, stuff like that.
Would that be similar to areas of the city are expanding, or we had the big build out in North Phoenix, so they need to make sure that there's more power out there, so you guys have to take care of all that?
Yeah, 100%. Out east, there's a lot of new substations. Out west, there's a lot more like additions to existing substations. So we don't do a lot of that stuff. That's more the construction side, and they contract some of that out. But excuse me, we like do occasionally some of our own stuff. Like a lot of, if stuff is replaced, we'll kind of take that under maintenance, because it's like we're maintaining the grid by replacing an old piece of equipment and upgrading it to a newer one, and so it's still under our like jurisdiction of work. So that's what I'm doing right now with some of those jobs. And so just bigger equipment, different totally from the other two worlds I was in. But yeah.
How much crossover was there with what you're doing? Did you feel like it was a step, like going from residential to what you were doing in industrial, like it was a step up, but it was nice to know everything before, and then same thing going to the utility? Or was there a decent amount of like, all right, each branch is pretty unique, and you could kind of get plugged into each one and stay in your own lane there?
I'd say like yes to both. Like it's kind of an interesting way to put it, because I took the experience from residential knowing like here's how wiring works, right, just in general. And now there's no more Romex, no more stuff through attics, but it's now all conduit. But like the wiring, like, you know, hot leg is a hot leg, neutral is a neutral, ground's a ground. And so like knowing that kind of stuff and knowing like how to troubleshoot is the biggest thing. And so taking that experience of, okay, I can troubleshoot, like finding there should be power here, why isn't there, or there is power here and it shouldn't be. That stuff applies to each field, knowing that kind of stuff. Very different tools, very different stuff. Like, you know, in like a home, we're running Romex and we're running, you know, different different type of stuff. And then going to the utility and industrial, it's just all different kinds of stuff. But you take that knowledge of like, I know basic tools, I know basic electricity stuff, and I know how to find my resources and learn as I'm growing in this. And that definitely applied. But you could have a guy start in industrial and he's never touched a house and he has no idea how his home panel works. And you could have a guy in the utility who is a genius on utility stuff. Like he knows how transformers work, like 69 kV to 500. He knows how the breakers work. He knows the electrical theory behind all that stuff. He knows how our grid works. And then he could have no idea and not want to work in his house at all because he's just like, I don't want to touch that stuff. And so I'd say the crossover is as much as you want to apply it yourself and how you want to like think about it and apply. Okay, I took this knowledge here, and now how am I going to apply it in this job? And then use that to like keep learning and grow off that.
Yeah, so that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And then there's a lot of times, I think it's electrical, HVAC, and I think there's some plumbing schools as well. Mm-hmm. You went through the electrical school. Mm-hmm. It's funny that there are a decent amount of people that I talk to when you tell them that you're in the trades where it's like, oh, did you go to school or how does that work? Mm-hmm. And you obviously went through a school. I didn't, because for GCs, there's not really a school mm-hmm. besides like construction management. Mm-hmm. What was the experience with the school? What did the schedule look like? What did you guys go over with that? And then even how do you feel like that translated to all three of the areas that you were in?
Yeah, so the school was 4 years, and it was 2 nights a week. One night in, like the first year was both nights in person, and then as you got to the second year and on, it was 1 night in person, 1 night online, which online was basically just do your homework and show you signed in. And the first year basically like was to weed a lot of guys out. It was a lot of math. Like we did voltage drop and like Pythagorean theorem for like conduit bending, and like if you bend at this angle, what kind of offset are you going to get? And a lot of guys drop out just from simple math. They don't want to do it. And so our class went from, I had a class of 90 starting first year, first semester. I graduated with 18 people. And so there's like a huge dropout rate going along the way.
It's a huge attrition rate.
Yeah. And they were proud of it. My second year, and that first year was easy for me because I graduated high school. I took like my, year break doing like discount tire, jumped right into electrical. And so like all that stuff was fairly fresh still. And this was like simple algebra math. And so I was like, this is easy. And I was like, if this is going to be an apprenticeship, I'm going to rock this. And so I finished my first year and I came into the second year like way too cocky. And I dropped to be like a C student in the second year. And that was the year that I honestly, looking back now, wish I paid the most attention in, because it was all about transformers. And now that's what I work on like all the time. And so we'll talk about transformers now in the field. And I'll be like, yeah, I really wish I paid attention those years. Because like I know what a transformer does. And I know what like the maintenance stuff I have to do on it. And if things go wrong, like I know the steps I have to take. But just like the theory behind stuff and the different kinds of transformers, just stuff like that, I wish I would have paid more attention. So I got through that year. And then the third year was all about just grounding and the safety of grounding. That was the whole like first semester of third year, and I think part of the second semester of second year. And they really nail that home, because grounding is like your safety. That is like everything's got to go back to ground. Like that's your safety net, right? And so like different ways you can ground. Like just there's an entire huge section in the code book just about grounding, and they say it's just like the most important part. So we did a lot of time on that. And then the third year, second semester went into controls, which was my favorite part because we had a lab. And to me, it's like, we're hands-on workers. Like, we got this job because, like, we want to work with our hands, or, like, we didn't know what else to do. But we all work with our hands, and so now we have a lab to actually, like, see how things work. And if it doesn't work, the light doesn't turn on, or the motor doesn't run. And you're like, okay, now I got to go back and fix it somehow. And so those were the years I felt I had the most fun in my school. They were the most applicable to what I do now, because of the control schemes are just like our schematics at work now that I do in the utility field. And so that had the most crossover for me. So I feel like I learned the most there. I applied the most there. I had the most fun in that one. And then the fourth year, second semester was all just code, which I don't even use now anymore. Like we have standards which are above code, and we have standards that are like strictly for the utility. So like we may do some stuff where it's like, oh, I'm doing this and that, and that's to code, and they're like, we don't care about that. Like that's not what we follow here. And so that doesn't really apply to me. Like if I wanted to go get like my contractor's license for electrical, I wouldn't know that stuff, right, for code. But some of the stuff didn't apply. I'd say first year, I don't really use much of that stuff. Second year, I could have used a lot more of that stuff if I paid attention. And the third year, like, was where I learned the most that probably applied to what I do now. And so the schedule, I mean, having it one night a week in person, one night not, and then being in the middle of COVID too, where like they didn't have class at all in person. Sometimes you were just on Skype. Like I definitely, messed around more than I paid attention. In some of those classes, I just got home and drank beer and had Skype on and listened to my class somewhat while watching TV. But there's a lot of stuff that does apply, but some of it doesn't to what I do now.
Yeah.
But,
School's still school.
Yeah, exactly. It was very much like, I don't want to do this at school.
Yeah. Switching gears a little bit. So you started at 17, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you see guys coming in now, because you're 8 years in, that are starting out, what do you think the roadmap would be for someone who's like, okay, I feel like this would be a path I could find a career in. Mm-hmm. How would you kind of give them advice? Is it same thing, try and get into a school? Is it try and find just a good opportunity with work? Or how would you lay that out? And then on the other side, would even want to pick your brain about the aptitude or the attitude that they take, not the aptitude, the attitude that they take into the job.
Mm-hmm. If a guy comes to me now and wants to get a job in the electrical field, I'm like, come with utility. Like, I love what I do. We get paid very well. It's a lot of fun. You see a lot of cool stuff. And the best way to get, like, the only way to get into my position is an apprenticeship. So the school route. And so I'll tell people, like, hey, if you want to be an electrician, there are companies, like, outside of utility. Like, I went through them. I went through an apprenticeship on the outside of the utility. You can do that route and, like work your way up. And like, to me, it's, if you're not going to do work and do an apprenticeship, you're going to be working for someone else and be underpaid for your whole career because they know they can, because other guys will go through the apprenticeship, have that card, have that paperwork, and that makes them worth more right away.
And maybe let's take a step back real quickly. People talk about a journeyman's card, and whether it's a journeyman electrician, there's I believe there's a journeyman plumber, and is there a journeyman HVAC?
I'm not sure. I think so. I'm not sure. That's not my field.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here, give me a second. Let's put a pin in it. I'm going to put this on pause. I've got a son that's crying in the other room, and then we'll resume in a second.
Sounds good.
All right. Journeyman's card. So what is a journeyman's card? Because I've heard different things in terms of you went to school for it. There's guys who've been an electrician or whatever long enough to where, now they're a journeyman. There's different regulations across different states. So if you were to describe what a journeyman's card is, how would you describe that?
You have to have 8,000 hours, 8,000 like documented on the job training hours, X amount of hours of schooling, and you have to pass some kind of final test. And so you can have, I went through, it's called IEC, Independent Electrical Contractors. My last test was about code. The utility is going to be about utility, right? You can have ones for like different locals, different unions. They're going to be more about like what they do, like inside wiremen, stuff like that. Substation, like specific ones, right? Linemen have their own. Like, there's all different kinds of apprenticeships, but it's that you did the 8,000 hours of documented hours on the job, and then X amount of hours, and it's usually what's called NJATC, which is an acronym for something I don't know right now. It's basically like you're qualified, And so there are guys that do the whole, I've been doing this forever, I'm a journeyman. And to me, I'm like, you have the skill and knowledge of that in that field, but like, you're not a journeyman. And as much as it like pains me to say, there's guys I worked with that were great at what they did, smarter than me, taught me, I consider them journeymen, but they're not journeymen. Like, they can't come to a company that requires you to have that and get a job there. Even though they may have all that knowledge, it's like they just didn't go through that school. And it's like, if you just did that part, even if like you later in your career, like you've been working here for X amount of years, you're like, I want to get that card now. I want to get that schooling. I want to get that certificate. You can take that to a state that like, because we don't have that. you're not required to like have your journeyman card here to work at a company and call yourself a journeyman for a lot of these private companies. If you want to go to a union, like Local 640, 769, or the company I'm at, the utility I'm at, we have our own local. You can't come in and say you're a journeyman without proving it. Like to get hired, I had to send in my paperwork. I had to send in my card, my certificate. I think I even sent in my transcripts and my hours, and I sent in I was even like, I'll send you my OJT hours. Like, no, you sent in all the right documents. You're good to go. If you don't have that, you can't call yourself a journeyman in specific fields. And so that's just another like another tool you can use to like progress in the field. And so young guys that want to get in this field, I'm like, if you don't get this, you're severely limited to the money you can make and the jobs you can get. And the highest paying jobs as an electrician are going to be those that require you to have that card. So just go do it. Do it while you're young. Do it while you have the time. And if you're not young and you don't have the time, do it anyway, because like you want to have that higher ceiling. You don't want to limit yourself to that ceiling of pay and progress you can make.
And can we even talk about the financial obligation that goes into the schooling?
What do you mean by that? Like the financial obligation?
How did you pay for the school that you went through?
So the company that I first was at, they paid for it. And I had a whole deal I was supposed to keep. I didn't because of the whole weird situation of me leaving the company. So the second company I was at, their deal was with me that they will pay for like the semester up front, semester in books. They'll take it out of my check biweekly for the cost. They divvied it up across how many paychecks per the semester. And if I finish that semester and passed it with an A, B, or C, I just got a little bonus check back. Like, hey, we paid for it, good job. If I failed, they were like, well, you ended up paying for it, and then you're gonna have to re-enroll. And then the deal was though, I have to work for them for a whole year afterward to fulfill that. Like I was an indentured apprentice with them, and if I broke that, I had to pay them back. And so I did that. I finished my apprenticeship out with that second company, doing industrial work. I got a job at the utility within a few months, and so I just went to my boss and I was like, hey, I know I'm breaking this, so I'm going to pay you back for the schooling that you had paid for, and I did. And so, I mean, I think the apprenticeship I went through, all in all, was about $12,000 in total, books and semester, for all 4 years. But I didn't go the whole 4 years with him, so I don't know him $12,000. But I know other people that have gone through the whole 4 years, and they have paid that back, and it was, I think, around $12,000. Now, that was back when I went through it. I'm sure inflation and some prices have changed.
Well, still, if you were to compare that to 2015 in-state university tuition, I think per semester, I was looking at $8,000. That's for one semester, not 4 years.
Yeah, so you're like $16,000 a year.
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah, so you're more...
That's just for school.
Yeah, that's just for school. And this was school and books, and like it's local, so I'd drive there to Tempe after work, and then I'd drive home. And then the second night of the week, I drove home after work, got on my computer, signed on, and did my stuff. So it's like you're not in class every single day. And, you know, even if you are working full-time...
And you're making money at the same time.
Because I know people now, they're like, well, I have, like, if you can't do school full-time because you have a full-time job, you just elongate out how long you're going to be in school. And you're like, going to be 6-8 years. I'm like, this is 4, like, no matter what.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I had, like, later nights, like, later meaning, like, I got home at, like, 8:30, which isn't bad after school. Like, I get home later some nights for work now. But it's like, it's worth it in the end to do that because I didn't even miss that money. Like, it was just coming out of my check, and then I got a little bonus afterward. And to guys that are in the utility that get into, like, either the local unions or the different utilities, they get that apprenticeship, they don't owe anything. They get in because of, like, they have to apply for it. There's, like, orientation, a test they have to do all these, like, different, like, field tests, and then they get into the apprenticeship. And if they make it all the way through, they top out, they get that card, they're a journeyman, they could quit the next day after they get that and go to somewhere else that pays them a few dollars more to go travel and do electrical work, like build substations all over the country. So it's like there's no financial obligation for them to stay. They can just use that as a tool, get that card, and then go make even more money, which is awesome. So I tell guys, I'm like, if you want this job, try your best to get an apprenticeship. And even in the utility I'm at, it's not just apprenticeship. There's so many jobs you can go get. But it's like, just get in and like work toward a goal of progressing, because the ceiling's very high for even us guys that don't have college degrees. It's like, just work for something a little more. You know?
Yeah. Which I know that when we both started, and I'm not sure if they talked about it as much with you, but the GC I worked with, he talked about that one day the guys in construction were going to get paid like doctors. And after several years, I didn't believe it. But now it's really starting to come around, as far as I think, as we both see you have to understand where to look for the right opportunity, because you can definitely fall in with companies where I know that there are electricians who are leads on crews and they were getting paid $25 an hour. And as far as in construction, being a lead on a residential crew for the scale that they were doing, that guy should have been making like close to $35 an hour. And that's a $20,000 a year swing in his salary. Like, and you think about a family and all of that. So you need to understand where to look for the opportunity. But there are more and more of those things where, hey, if you understand how to use the system that is in place for you to use it, you can capitalize on it in a huge way.
Yeah, I think people just get comfortable where they're at. Like, you know, it's like I was talking about this with my wife. We were talking about, like, imagine, like, you know, each business or company, there's like a ladder of, like, you know, your ceiling you're going to reach. And so, like, you may be here at like the second of 5 steps and I'm making okay money. And like, well, to come over to be in this field, I'm going to take a pay cut. And I'm like, yeah, but your starting rung is a pay cut, but your ending rung, the ceiling is so much higher than you'll make there. So look for that opportunity. Like that guy that's a lead, he's making $25 an hour. He could take that experience, especially if he has like schooling behind it. He could go somewhere that's going to pay him $35. And then in a few years with that experience, he can go somewhere that pays him $45. And he can find those opportunities locally. It doesn't have to be like, it's not always just the traveling job, stuff like that. Like take that experience and go find somewhere that's going to pay you what you're worth as you find more experience and you get more experience and you work harder for that job. Like just go find that. And I know it's like cliche, like just go find it, but it's like there are great opportunities out there. There are great opportunities if you want to be comfortable and get paid like the 30 an hour and like make that, and if you have a family, but there's also opportunities where you can go get paid like 40, 50, 60 bucks an hour as an electrician. Now the danger might go up when you're getting paid more and longer hours, yada, yada, different stuff you're doing, but the opportunity is there and it may take time, but you just got to look for it.
Yeah. Which I know the GC I was with at the first time, I was there for 4 years and I never had the idea cross my mind for 3.5 years of even leaving, because it was just like, this is what you do. You show up to work and that was it. But it's understanding that like if there's a very tangible role to, if you want to make more money, either just for yourself or if you start to have a family and you need to take care of that family, it's like there's times where you have to just look around and say, all right, what vehicle do I need to get into that has the most opportunity? On the residential side, we see it a lot of times where like, you can work with, like, I'm a small GC, like I don't have any guys right now with me. If I were to bring someone on, I can't afford to pay them a lot of money. There are some companies though that you can have on the ultra luxury side, especially here in Arizona. And I've heard that there are project managers making between $150,000 a year up to $300,000 a year. And you need to be dialed in with what you're doing. You're going to have probably like a decade plus of experience behind you, proven record of all that. So like you need to build all of that, but there is an avenue for you. And if that's something that you want for yourself, for your family, there's the opportunity, but you got to pick your head up and look around.
Yeah. I think that people, like, with the second company I was at, like, layoffs happened a lot. They'd get a big project, they'd hire a bunch of dudes, they'd hire a bunch of temps, and then that project would slow down, and they wouldn't have the next big project lined up, and so a bunch of guys would get laid off. And so you as an apprentice, you weren't laid off because, like, they're investing in you to be in school, but you'd be almost like, oh, this is as good as it gets because I kept my job. And, like, you didn't, like, it's not like you talk to like other electricians at other companies, like, oh, what's going on? Like, I saw guys in my apprenticeship, like they made more than me. This guy did this guy did that. But like, we weren't allowed to just jump over if we wanted, like, oh, like, hey, you want a job here? Like, I'd have to go to the school, and the school would say, why do you want to go? And if you literally said, I want more money, they'd say, no, you have to stay where you're at. Literally, they were like, you cannot tell us it's for more money. And it's like, why? Like, some of these guys were like in their 30s and 40s with family, and I'd be like, what do you mean I can't say it's for more money? This guy's willing to pay me $5 more an hour.
Which is $10,000 a year.
Yeah, as an apprentice. And I have a family, and I'm working to try and progress, and I can't just go for money. And so you get comfortable in the spot you're at, like, maybe this is the best I can get because I'm seeing guys get laid off, and I'm never going to make that money. Like, I had that mentality, like, I'm never going to, like, make X amount of money doing electrical. Like, I picked this field, I'm in construction, I'm going to make, like, I thought I was like, oh, I'll make around 60 to 70K throughout my career, and that'll be good because that's about the average median, but I'm just an electrician, I didn't do this and that. And I was like, I can make that here working like my 40 hours plus maybe 10 to 20 overtime here, and I just like I'll keep working hard and I'll make that money. But I never like thought of that opportunity elsewhere until people were like literally calling me like, hey, you should come here. We make a lot more money. And it's like, oh, cool. Like, I guess I should think about that. And it's like, you got to look for it.
And at the end of the day, the opportunity with that too is, like you said, it's not we need to go on the road, so leave the wife and kids at home. It's literally just come across town because they have certain contracts or relationships that they've got set up.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is the over-the-road stuff where you make tons of money. But I mean, yeah, like there are tons of local companies that even if you're not in the utility world or in the union world, where you can just, okay, this guy's got bigger project, this company's got more outreach, this place has got more clients, like go work for them, make some more money and use that as a stepping stone or like fit in as a career. Like it's just, don't get stuck in one spot being like, and I think a lot of people get in any career get stuck in one spot. Like I'm gonna stay right here. Like I can support, like I got my bubble, I'm just in it and I'm just gonna ride this out to retirement.
Yep.
And I mean, I kind of feel that way where I'm at now. I'm like, I'm pretty, like I love this job. It pays me really well, provides for my family. So like I don't plan on leaving unless I get fired, really. You know what I mean? Like, cause I don't want to go.
And you don't plan on getting fired.
I don't plan on getting fired, yeah. And so, like, I want to keep this job because of, like, I think it is, like, more of the upper echelon of electrical as maybe as that, like, you know, as arrogant as that sounds, but, like, we work with really cool stuff to me. Like, we work on, you know, 500,000 volt transformers and stuff like that. That's pretty cool, you know? So I think I want to stay there. And it pays well in the electrical field. Like, this pays really well. So, like, I want to go where that is, you know?
Yep.
And so that's where I'm going to stay.
Yeah. Mentioning even the high voltage that you're dealing with, and then I know some of the stuff that you're doing on the industrial side, but how do you guys as a team deal with the safety side of things? Because in the trades, there is more of a physical risk than there is doing an office job, whether you're an accountant, insurance, whatever it is that is non-trades related. So, like, in terms of safety, there are a lot of memes, videos made against OSHA, different things like that. But at the end of the day, making sure everyone comes home in one piece is a big deal. So how do you guys make sure that you're doing that?
Yeah, there's a huge safety culture at the company I'm at. Like they preach it. They say safety trumps production, which I mean, I think regardless of what you think, what people think or not, like in the upper like office levels, like we feel that way in the field. Like, yes, like I want to be productive at work. I want to be very productive. I want to be efficient, but I'm not going to sacrifice safety because of safety when it comes to that kind of stuff, like is life or death. And so the crew that, I have, like we are very like safety conscious. It is a good safety culture. We have like daily morning safety meetings. We talk about hazards. If our job scope changes, we talk about, hey, this is kind of odd here. It can be a safety risk. So like going from the other two companies I was at where like there was just like, oh yeah, we believe in safety, but like that culture wasn't there. Like the rules put in place weren't there. It was like, well, if you have to get it done, like just get it done by any means necessary. It is not that way where I'm at now. It is very like safety oriented, like get people home every day. Like,
do you feel like there's a difference between whether one or the other, or the one that you're at now has very much practical, hey, this scope changed, so we need to be aware of X, Y, Z, and it's essentially you can see it in front of you, whereas there's the stereotypical, guys, we're going to have our safety meeting, so remember to wear your goggles, steel-toed boots, and your hazard vest. Now, get out there, guys.
Yeah. There's the whole meme culture of construction where it's like you said, like the HR stuff or the OSHA stuff. But like we preach it because like we get guys that come in, they're like, 18, 19, 20, never been around this stuff. And this isn't like I touched the outlet, I got shocked. This is like I could carry something over my head and die. And so it's very like, hey, we do these things for a reason because people have gotten hurt. People have died in this field years ago. So like, let's be very, mindful in what we do for a reason. It is like you said, very practical. Like, look, here are the hazards out here. Like, don't be dumb. Do these things. Be safe in these ways. Like, they say like the whole, these rule books are written in blood. It's like a lot of them are because people died making a mistake that they didn't even know was a mistake at the time. And now it's a new rule. It's like, okay, that's why we do the things we do. So it's like, let's bring that to the next generation that's coming in because like, I didn't know a lot of the hazards going in. Like I worked on, different systems, different stuff. And I came in and found out like, oh man, the stuff I did on the outside, that was really unsafe because like these hazards, like I should have thought of that now I think of that way differently. And so like I would never let some of these guys that are coming, like I would never let them think that's safe to do, you know. And so just having that mindset, like yes, very practical safety stuff, like not the dumb safety rules, but be very practical with safety rules. I think it's a really big thing that we preach and we do, and I really enjoy that. Like it makes you feel more comfortable with the people around you feel that way too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, it's also when you get a good core team, you can balance the safety and production can naturally balance itself because everyone's watching each other's back. You're looking out for, hey, we need to do it this way. And if we work as a team, the production will get done in the best way possible.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And we tell people, like, if you see something, say something. If you see something, ask a question. Like, we will stop the job if you feel uncomfortable, and we'll either address it or explain to you why it is safe and you're mistaken, or we'll be like, hey, yeah, you're right, that wasn't safe. Let's change what we're doing now. And so it is just that, like, practicalness, speak up, say stuff, and yeah, like, if you're too afraid to do anything and you keep stopping, oh, is that safe? Is that safe? It's like, well, then you're not going to be productive, and you will lose all that stuff. But we don't have that. Like, we are, like, enough people are experienced in the crew I'm on. They're like, okay, like, we know practically what to do. We explain it to new people on the site, and we keep it rolling. We keep productivity up. We want to be efficient and safe at the same time, you know?
Yep. And then something that we had talked about before doing the podcast had to do with it's people have talked about the work-life balance, and a lot of times people beat this to death on different podcasts and stuff like that. But just in terms of what do you see with your expectation for yourself in terms of the work-to-life balance and work-to-family balance, and then as well as what do you see with the guys coming in, the guys that you are or were working with that have been in the trades for a long time, and how those are either in alignment or in conflict with each other?
Yeah, so the start of that, like, the work-life balance, like, will always be a struggle. Like, you know, I think as guys, we struggle, like, with the three big things that pull at each other is, like, your job. You feel like you need to be at your job more to provide more for your family. You feel like you need to be with your family more to be an active dad or husband. And so then that would pull away from your job time. And then you also want to work on, like, yourself, like physically or spiritually or mentally. And that, if you focus on any one of those three above the other, it pulls time away from the other two. And so you're always, like, fighting those. And so, like, I realize, like, you know, my wife and I realize, like, my job is important. It provides for the family. It pays the bills. So, like, and I am in maintenance. I have to go work overtime. Like, I have to take call-outs. There are days I have to stay late. Stuff breaks. It is part of the job. And there are days that I'll be like, okay, I worked a lot of overtime these last 2 weeks. I'm going to take the weekend off. And so that, to me, is that balance of, like, we go on dates every week if we can, if not every other week, you know. I make sure when I come home, if the kids, like, if it's not too late, I'm playing with the kids, I'm being active. Like, that's where that balance is of, like, to me, trying to, like, be as active as I can when I'm at home, but realize, like, I have a responsibility to my job, and I know the roles and duties I have to do at work that make me stay extra sometimes. And so you balance as much as you can. In different seasons of life, you balance less and you balance more. I think a lot of people nowadays, like, are afraid of the word overtime. Like, they think it's like, they think of it like the office scenario, like, you know, not the show, but, like, just in general, like the workplace where it's like, you got to come in on Friday or Saturday to finish this stuff, and so it's overtime. And so they see it as like a punishment, where it's like, growing up in the trade, like, there were old guys being like, if there's overtime, you take it because it might dry up. And so I worked, like, 9 months. I worked 6 10s every single week for, like, 9 months. Just like, okay, I'm supposed to do this. This is what I'm supposed to do. I just go to work every single day, every single Friday and Saturday. I work overtime. And I'm banking then 20 hours of overtime a week. And I'm like, that makes my check look nice. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. I can save a lot more money now. I can buy a house now because I kept going to work. And so I think people are really afraid to go work overtime. And it's like, because I'll tell people, I'm like, yeah, like, this is a great job. You can come work here. And they're like, well, I might take a little pay cut. I'm like, oh, don't worry, there's overtime. You can go for that. And they're like, what? Like, they're sickened by that word. And I'm like, no, that's a good thing. Like, you can come in on, like, a Friday or Saturday and make overtime, or you get a call out and you make more money. So it's like, you're providing for your family. And I get you don't want to lose that family life that you have, but it's like, you also want to provide for them, right? Like, you don't want to work extra, but you're going to ask your wife to go to work because you don't want to have to go work extra. Like, go to work. Mm-hmm. Like, and I think there's a lot of guys, like, we have a lot of good guys that come in that are, like, in their early 20s, like my age even. I just got, like, a jump start early. And so they want to come in and they're like super eager and they'll go do the overtime. They're like, oh yeah, we're working Saturday. Cool. We got a call out. Cool. I'm there. And so that's cool because they're eager. They want to learn. But then I'll tell people like, hey, yeah, come to this place. Like, it's awesome. Like, great company to be at, great benefits. Like, you got to work your way up to get the benefits though. Like, you got to work extra. And it's like a disease almost to think I got to work extra. It's like, oh, I don't want to lose this part of my life. And it's like, yeah, but this part of your life provides livelihood. Like, you have to go do that. To me, it's like, I don't get that disconnect. To me, I'm like, overtime is great. Like, it pays you more money to go to do your same job. Like, you're going to do the same exact thing to make a lot more money.
Yep.
And it's going to provide you a better life and your family a better life if you do it regularly enough that you can still be with them, but also keep bringing home those checks.
Yep.
So,
which I think something that I didn't even thought about what you said, the responsibility to the job. And there's so many people that is not a thing to them. Mm-hmm. And I know, like, I've worked in small companies. So the window and door company that I worked at when I started, I think there were 12 people. So we felt the responsibility to each other. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just, oh, we're going to go, like, I'm done at 40 hours a week. It's you would check in, hey, where are you at? Mm-hmm. Are you guys set? Do you need me to come over there? And there are times where it's like, we're getting our butts kicked. It's 115 out. It's 4 p.m. Mm-hmm. and we're handling aluminum. Mm-hmm. But you have a responsibility to those guys, and it's almost by extension, you have the responsibility to the job that you're doing.
Yeah.
And so many people look at it as, I did my part. Mm-hmm. It is about my job. It is about me. And it's like, you don't understand that you are a part of a company which enables everyone to have a job. And so if you are not playing a strong role in all of this, then things start to erode and fall apart.
Yeah. And there were times like that, like I did my 8 hours on a job and then the boss came and was like, hey, the other job site's like lacking behind. Can you go? And I was like, yeah, I'll head over there. And they're like, the guy literally stopped and said, hey, it's going to be another 8 hours. And I was like, oh, okay. And we worked till like midnight that night. It was not 8 hours. It was like however long it was. It was just like, okay. And never once did I think like I should go home. I was just like, this is just my job. I was just like, this is what I signed up for. This is part of what I do. And I wasn't married yet, but I just called, fiance at the time. I was like, I'm not going to see you tonight. I'm working. And it's what it is. And there are times in my job now where it's like, I'll call her. I'm like, hey, it's going to be a late day. Like, how late? I have no idea. It's going to be late. It's like, I have a responsibility to my family to make money. So like, and yes, I could go just do my 10 and go home. But I'm like, okay, if I stay long today, that's going to pay me more. So my check's nicer so that we have more in savings. So we have more stuff we can get. Like I make sure the family's fed, clothed, all the good stuff we need. And I can put more in savings. And I have a responsibility that I'm not leaving my crew going, I'm stopping at 10 hours, I'm going home. Even though I don't have to. I don't want to be here anymore. It's like I have a responsibility. I'm going to go help keep them safe, help get the job done. Hopefully quicker because I'm an extra pair of hands there. And then we all get to go home and see our families sooner than if everyone had that mentality of, hey, we're just going to go home because, I'm done. And only one or two guys said they're willing to go step up. Well, now they have to go work longer and they're not going to go see their family even later now because they had to cover for you because you wouldn't go help. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's our job. It's to me, like, I don't have that disconnect. I'm just like, it's my job. I just go do it, and I think more men need to have that attitude. Like, it's my job. Like, my job, yes, it is a job. Like, I go get paid to do these tasks, but it's like, it is my job to my family to work well at my job, to keep my job. It is my job for my family to do well here, to provide. It is my job. Like, I see it, I take it personally. It is my job to do well enough here that my wife doesn't have to go to work if she doesn't want to. If she wants to, that's fine. I don't want her to ever have to feel like she does. And so, to me, I'm willing to stay longer. I'm willing to do more hours. And I think more guys need to have that attitude of like, oh, I don't want like my wife to feel that burden. I'll go work extra. Like, just go to work.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing too is I think people don't realize that the curve that you accelerate on either in your career, understanding which those two are usually tied together in terms of the experience, but when you have more time on the job, and usually when you're in the situation that demands more time, that means something is happening that is either more important or is going to take more skill, more effort. So all of those build experience. So the person who puts, like, once you start plotting it out in terms of the guys who are doing, if it's 40 versus 50 or 40 versus 60, or even if you're to take all three and you're to just chart it out, it's like there's a reason why the guys who usually work the most are getting promoted. And it's one, because they're there. The company recognizes them, that they are dependable, but then also the skill acquisition involved. I will say on the flip, I've experienced the flip side of that coin, where at one point I was encouraged to go do side work, so not overtime, but side work. And the motivation with that was because then I would be a better worker for their company. And I didn't necessarily like that, because the motivation wasn't that in some ways that it was going to help my life, but it was going to help that person with their company. So it's, but at the same time, if you can always reframe it that, hey, this is something that I'm taking on personally, how do I approach the task that I have in front of me, and how does that work in the long term as far as the growth curve?
Yeah, and I think the beauty of the trades is the ability to do side work. Like, you have a job that you go get paid to do by an employer, but now you've learned a skill that you can take, and a lot of people need these skills. Like, you learned how to frame and do drywall, and now people reach out to you, like, in your first few years of doing these things, they go, can you do this for me? And you're like, yeah, I can go make this much money for myself now. Like, I did side work for years. I did side work all through my apprenticeship. I did side work all basically up until I worked here at the utility. I still did side work for like the first 2 years at the utility. If people wanted stuff done that were around me, I did it. Like, I wouldn't go to like Tucson anymore, or like drive far for stuff, or if you were way across town, I'd recommend someone else. But I was like, I mean, I can go make the same amount of money or more than I make at work, and just go like for less hours, because like I can just go do this quickly because I know the skills I've learned to go do it quickly, get paid, then go back home. And it's like a lot of jobs don't have that ability to go. You learned a skill, which a lot of jobs you have to learn a skill to do, but then take that skill and apply it to like your neighbor or like your neighborhood or family or friends. They're like, oh, I need this skill now, and I'll pay you for it. Like, oh, cool, I can go do that and make more money now. Like, I've learned a really good skilled labor job that I can go take and make even more money. And that's how business owners get born. Like, you do it enough for yourself, you go, why am I working for someone else? You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm still working for someone else. Yeah. I'm not going to go start a utility company.
All of a sudden, you just start trying to find small towns, like, we'll build all the infrastructure for you. Yeah, cool. One of the reasons why I even wanted to mention part of the growth curve is you have a new position in a leadership role with the utility. And you haven't been there for a decade, but it's, you have proven yourself just with your expertise, your work ethic, all those things. So now you are being put into a leadership role. How do you approach the tactical side of, okay, we have a job, now things are changing in terms of we need to make sure all the materials are here on time, making sure scheduling's in check, but then also making sure that like leadership comes with personnel and managing personnel. So how have you started to look at that and even prepare as you're newly stepping into that role?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like the material and doing the job and stuff like that, I was kind of trying to volunteer for that role a lot anyway. And so I feel like that was good to like, cause if you're eager to learn and move up, it's not as big of like a...
So wait, real quick. You started doing the actions before you got the position you wanted?
Yeah.
Oh, so you did more work?
Yeah.
For the job you wanted? That's funny how that works.
Yep. And it better prepared me for like, okay, this wasn't such like a, oh my gosh, this is crazy. There was some of that still like, oh, there was more than I thought. Or there was like, oh, I guess I didn't think of these things. As far as the personnel goes, that was a little different because like before when it was like I was put in that situation, like I was, you know, I'm a journeyman on crew and then I'm upgraded to foreman when the foreman wasn't there. The guy you're working with is still like your peer, like he's still your journeyman. And I don't see myself as like the boss of these guys that I'm on crew with right now. Like I know I'm the foreman, but I don't see them as like, oh, they're beneath me. Like the guys each probably know more than me in certain areas. Like one guy definitely knows like so much more than me that I'm like, this guy's a genius. I need to keep him on crew. So my job is more like, okay, I want to make sure these guys are happy. These guys are safe. These guys feel good about the work they're doing. And these guys don't feel like they're getting screwed in any way. And I'm going to try and utilize them for the strengths they have and not be upset for them for the ones they don't. and like look for their strengths and be like, okay, I'm gonna like utilize you for this strength the best, and I'll even ask questions. But I'm also gonna be like, hey, these are the things I want to do. Here's the expectations I have. Let's try and tackle this today. What do you guys think? And leave it open to good discussion, but also at the end of the day, like I am the one that I'm gonna try and like drive. Like, hey, I want to get this done. Let's try and get this done. Like, and so that's will always be the hurdle, because as time goes on, I'll get new people on crew, people retire, people will move to different positions, which hopefully they move to bigger and better, as always. And so it'll be constantly learning new people, constantly learning different personalities. And so I think for me, it's just going to be try and utilize people for the strengths they have and not count it against them for the ones they don't. And if they're teachable, then try and teach them the ones I want them to have that would like best utilize our crew. And so that's just how I've been trying to focus on it right now.
Yeah. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Which I wanted specifically to have this episode just because you have been very successful inside the trades. And when I started, the first couple of years especially, I thought the only guys that were successful in the trades were the business owners. Mm-hmm. And the other guys, they got squeezed a little bit more. So if anyone is interested in the trades, I hope that like he is a good example for people where it's like, I started my own company because I've got my own goals with that. I look at like, that's the direction I want to go. Mm-hmm. But there's ways that you can be an employee, but you can still be, I think the attitude is still the same. That it's there are times where I've had people working for me, and so the leadership's the same, the holding a standard's the same. It's just, it might be different because at the end of the day, it's like, one's owner, one's not owner, mm-hmm. but the qualities that you still have to have regardless are the same. Mm-hmm. And I think going back to, there's a lot of people in our culture who, I'm not the owner, so I don't care. It's not my business, so I don't care.
Yeah, if you're not an employer or you're not like the boss, like the owner, but you still want to progress, like set your personal standard higher than the bare minimum work standard. Like set your personal standard to like have integrity, do your job well, try and excel, try and like reach the next rung of the ladder. Like I just always thought like, okay, if I'm in this trade, like the goal is always progression. Like, I didn't think like I never thought I'm just gonna get this position and ride it out. And it's like, okay, so like what is the next step? Like how do I be a good employee? Like, so to me, yeah, set your personal expectations for yourself higher than what the company bare minimum is, and keep working toward that, and you can be successful as an employee, because employers will notice that you're not just doing the bare minimum, that you're not just like, oh, this guy just puts in his 8 or 10, he doesn't care at the end of the day that this job didn't get finished. He's like, I did my hours and I'm going home, and tomorrow it's someone else's problem, or it'll be someone else's problem in the future kind of deal.
Yeah. Cool. And then I didn't have it in the notes, but you are entering the world of strongman. You started out in powerlifting, mm-hmm. now venturing into strongman. So you're chasing getting a pro card right now?
Yeah, that's the long-term goal, is a pro card. Yep, trying to get that.
Nice.
Yep.
So how does that fit in with work, family?
Difficultly. I have seasons of busyness at work, and like literally seasons. We have a heavy season and a light season, and even in that light season we can get call outs and stuff. So and then I like have prep time for a competition. So realizing like I set aside, like I tell my wife, and be like, okay, this is prep time for a competition, so I need this many days to work out to train for that. And so trying to be as flexible as possible, because like I may have a few days of work where I work like a 12, 14, 15. I'm like, okay, those days can't train now, so I may have to skip one this week. And so realizing that like family comes first, then my job, and this is a hobby. Working out is a hobby. Like I am not a pro. I'm not making money off it. It's a hobby. And so trying to make it important, trying to train like an athlete to like, okay, I'm trying to do well at this. But just realizing that it's not my calling. Like my calling is to be a good husband, good dad, a good employee at my job. And then this is a hobby. And so I can still try to excel at it, improve at the best of my abilities and what I can do. But just treat it like that and try and fit training in as much as I can. And when I have the opportunity, realize it is a gift. Like, hey, like I have the ability to go do this, so I'm going to do it well. I'm going to train hard and try and keep excelling at that. And so try and do well at my job and at Strongman. So yeah.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. Before we wrap it up, we've got a few quick questions. What's the most impactful thing you've learned?
Like on the job or just in general?
Just in general.
Most impactful thing I've learned. Man. Work hard and have integrity, in what you do. That's really impactful. It's like have integrity in whatever you do. Yeah.
What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Dark Knight Rises.
First character strength that comes to mind?
Like obsessive or tenacious, but borderline obsessive on a lot of stuff. Yeah.
When's the next Strongman comp?
Next one I've signed up for, Arizona Strongest Man in September, but then there'll be one that comes out, and I'll do that one in August. So I'll do like 1 month apart exactly. I'll do August and September.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Usually we ask where people could find a business, but if people want to follow along with what you're doing for Strongman stuff, where can they find you?
Instagram right now, and when I'm on it, Monstrous Malachi, and then maybe in the near future a YouTube channel, but we'll see about that. So,
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool. All right. Until next time, I hope your hammer stays accurate, your Wi-Fi fast, and your work blessed. See everybody.